Since the Industrial Revolution, this kind of social disruption has happened, and governments have tried a million different little things to keep the social contract. So basically what you're saying is the economy changes. Change causes pains and gains. It always has. That's the way it works. And some governments have tried adjustment things, some with more or less success. And I think just to bring it to today, if you look around the world, and where is there anti-globalization feeling? Let's separate anti-migration. Anti-immigration is a totally different thing.
Okay.
But if it's anti-globalization per se, the countries that have good social welfare systems, social market economies, retraining, a proper apprenticeship program, and all that kind of stuff, they're not anti-globalization. And it's mostly the US and the UK who have become globalization has become a very negative thing associated. In the whole emerging world, globalization is loved. I mean, you all you have to do is look at the Pew polls, where the Pew Research Center polls, and you go around and they say, do you think trade creates jobs or destroys jobs? And there's very clear, all the emerging markets, most of the people think it's good, creates jobs and opportunities. And in the rich countries, especially the ones who don't have good welfare systems, they say the majority of people say it's bad for job creation and opportunities. So that's what all we needed to do is look, if the US looked more like Canada or more like Europeans.
But then the process also creates its own pressures on welfare states, right?
Yeah, but that's right. You need the welfare state. Let's not say welfare state. Let's say social market economy, an approach where the government is in charge of making sure that the gains and the pains are shared, or at least have a hope of being shared.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't become désespéré, don't become completely desperate that you're going to be left aside. And so this is called social market economy. And where the social market economy works is when you get shocks, and we will need it to work more because I think we're going to get shocks much faster. But what the things are, there's no mystery to it. It's just helping people retrain. I have some ideas of what they should be retrained doing, but honestly, we don't really know what their jobs are going to be. The main thing is they're going to have to retrain more frequently. Probably soft skills are going to be more important than they used to be.
But people are like retiring from the workforce permanently, at least in this country.
In the U.S., right?
Yeah.
So
how do you keep people from not? Well, yeah.
Right. They've withdrawn from the workforce. We'll see what happens if the labor market still stays tight. But then that's not good. I mean, I do think that a lot of the narrative is based on the U.S. as if it was the whole world.
Yeah.
The rest of the world's not acting like that and not having the same problems.
Okay.
If you take Japan. Japan has had every possible shock: outsourcing, offshoring, competition with China, aging, climate change. They had them all. And there is no anti-globalization in Japan at all. There's only a far-right extremist party.
But you have like fewer cross-cutting cleavages culturally. I think that always makes things harder.
And so now you're going like, why do they find it easy to create this social contract?
Yeah.
And that is an element that matters. But Canada has 2 languages. They have enormous regional differences. They managed to do it. Switzerland has 3 different language groups divided by mountains.
Yeah.
We managed to do it in a totally different way.
But I want to talk about Switzerland because you know that we are in a banning crisis here, and I saw
banking crisis.
Banning crisis.
Oh, banning crisis. Why?
Because my boss invited him to talk about globalization.
Oh, right.
And it was a giant mess, and it is a giant mess.
I saw him speak in Hong Kong a week after.
Well, he's in Geneva this week, apparently, and invited by like one of the leading conservative dailies, and everyone's really excited, and apparently the business sector is really excited. Anyway, he's trying to marry white nationalism and protectionism.
Right.
And your book talks about this association between, I think you say, protectionism and really bad things. Are you worried about that?
So until this week, I wasn't worried at all because my view of trade policy is that it's basically governed by very firmly established vested interest groups. And if you look at, let's say, just like U.S. trade policy, whether it's a Democrat, a Republican, somebody who talks free trade, somebody who talks protection, it's all the same. I mean, there's just mood music that changes, but the basic thing is given by special interest groups, because mostly it's not on people's radar screen.
Yeah.
And up until recently, that was working with Trump. He said all sorts of scary things and then never did them.
But you're talking about the tariffs, right?
The tariffs, the way that the national exception, the national security use of justifying tariffs, that's a new one. And that opens up a whole new ball of wax, because it's not, tariffs, it's not anti-dumping or countervailing duties or safeguard, which are well recognized. There's a lot of case law on how you proceed. And like when the U.S. put on for solar panels, nobody went off the farm about that. They went through a dumping thing. They put on dumping duties according to the rules, and they're temporary. They're measured. Everybody knows how to deal with it. This is a brand new sort of set of artillery that he's pulled out, and that's scary. So I'm not deeply scared, because I think I'm relatively optimistic that the economic interests will moderate that, including in Congress. And by the way, Congress is the one who controls the tariffs, not the president. They delegate it to the president, but they could take that away if he gets sufficiently crazy.
Okay.
So I'm not too worried.
So you don't see any kind of,
we're playing poker, so I do see the hands could turn up and we get back to another tariff. You're not worried about
trade war, for instance.
No, I mean that is, if you get a full house and I get a straight flush, we might have a trade war.
Yeah.
So there is a configuration of the world where this thing all does blow up, but I'm just assigning probabilities to those things.
Okay.
So there's no way you can say it won't happen. We're playing poker, and I'm guessing that it's going to be a fairly normal poker game, and this will blow over.
But like the institutional infrastructure that has worked governing this process for the past since the post-war period.
Yeah.
It's young. It could explode. And like, why do you think that it won't?
So the institutional infrastructure was built to reflect the special interest groups.
Yeah.
So the United States designed the GATT together with the UK and a few other people, and then they designed the WTO. They designed the appellate body. They designed their trade rules. The U.S. Law reflects the GATT.
Yeah.
And so the GATT law is our law.
Okay.
And we respect our own laws. We respect the GATT laws. Now there's some deviations and things like that, but so it's deeply embedded, and it's not a spring twig. It came as a result of, it wasn't Woodrow Wilson's speech that led to it. That was a great idea. It's really the farmers fighting it out with the tech companies and the industrialists, and have led to this particular thing, which I think is a fairly strong political economy support for an open trading and investment system. And that's I'm guessing that will out.
Okay.
But I do understand